Found an interesting article that I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video to that article if you want to read it. It's on ACHR News, written by a lady named Maria Taylor. And the article is entitled 3 Things Millennial Homeowners Want from Their HVAC Contractor. This is kind of my generation. I'm actually an older millennial. I thought they point out a couple interesting things that I'll roll through in this video. But first, it starts out by saying as of March 2023, 52% of US millennials own a home. And in other words, 52% of Americans aged 28 to 43 may find themselves in the market for an HVAC system. And so it goes through a few things that are trending in our industry, things that our generation are okay with that maybe previous generations weren't, and also things that millennials expect from their HVAC contractor, maybe more than ever before. So again, it goes through a few of them, but I'm going to highlight just a couple that I think are the most interesting. One being that they want to see online pricing, which is an interesting one for me because to be honest with you, when I had my company, we never offered that. But millennials are wanting to see, in an industry where there's very little transparency, they're wanting to see more transparency. They're wanting to see upfront pricing on their websites. For me, that would have been tough because I feel like, at least for change outs, if I were going to put a new heating and air system in a home, not all homes were created equal. I didn't have a set price like some companies do for every single change out. Some houses required less labor or less materials to install it, so I wanted to give them the best price possible, whereas other houses might have required more of that. But I do think that this is interesting because that is sort of a trend we're starting to see. We're seeing more and more heating and air companies offer upfront pricing on their websites. I've seen different companies handle this differently. Some of them kind of give ranges, some of them kind of give their hourly rate or kind of what to expect. But ultimately, these folks in this newer generation, these folks that want more transparency, they want these online prices. They want to go to your website and see some sort of pricing. And I kind of wonder if that plays a role in all this when you are deciding who you're going to hire. If you were to see their prices and think, well, those are too high, I'm just going to call a company that's not being so transparent and they're not showing their prices on their website? Or would you be the flip side of that coin and say, that's way higher than I thought it would be, but this company's already being transparent up front? The next thing I found interesting about this article is how they studied over 400 homeowners and they found that millennials are okay with paying fees that maybe previous generations weren't. And I'll go through why I think that is in just a moment, but ultimately they're talking about these fees that companies will charge to do repairs or service. Some companies will call them diagnostic fees. Some companies will call them a trip charge. Some of them might call it a service fee, however they market it. But ultimately they're saying, if you want us to come out and do a repair, that's not a free estimate. We're not going to come out, give you an estimate and just drive away for free, at least for small repairs. But this article points out that these younger generations are more okay with paying these fees than previous generations. And they go through a number of reasons why they think that is. They go through the wording and how certain companies are getting better at marketing it, making it a little easier to digest if they call it one thing versus another. And I certainly think that could play a role, right? If you are telling customers that you're going to charge them a diagnostic fee and that customer says, oh, I already know what's wrong, you don't even need to diagnose it. But then you in turn say, oh, we're going to charge you a service fee to come out. And that homeowner knows, even if they already have diagnosed it, that you're charging this fee to do service work or repair work. And that's kind of the reason they're using. I actually think that the reason this generation might be a little more okay with some of those fees is because it's more of the norm now. Just like if you go back years ago when fast food first came about, right? Before that, consumers were used to staying home and cooking, or if they did go out, they would go to a sit-down restaurant or have one of those drive-up, curbside, what we call it today, type restaurants. But by the time I was born, fast food was kind of normal, right? There were drive-thrus. We knew what that was and how it operated. So ultimately, I think that this new generation, the norm, it's easier to digest. Some of these things, if an older generation was used to years past, they would get a free estimate even for small repairs. Maybe they weren't so okay with change. And so again, I'll put a link to this article down in the description of this video. This article goes on to talk about some other trends in our industry. It goes on to talk about how certain things can be bought online more than ever before. But let me know your thoughts. Have any of these things played a role in your decision making? Did a company have transparent pricing on their website? Did a company waive the service call fee, and maybe that's why you use them. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment down below. If you like this video, I think you'll like this one even more. It's where I talk about the new refrigerants that are replacing 410A and which one I think is better. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button. We'll see you next time.